Hello again, and welcome to another episode of ILoveAptitudeTests. What is autopoiesis, and how does it link to the system of white supremacy? First, what is autopoiesis? Let's break it down. Autopoiesis is a concept introduced by Chilean biologist Umberto Maturana and Francisco Varela in the 70s. It refers to the self-creation and self-maintenance of living systems. The term derives from Greek auto meaning self, poiesis meaning creation or production. It describes a system that continuously regenerates and maintains itself while remaining distinct from its environment. A key example is a cell, which constantly regenerates its components, proteins, membranes, DNA, while maintaining its boundary, the cell membrane. Core characteristics of autopoietic systems: self-production, which means the system produces and renews its components. Self-maintenance, which means it maintains its identity and boundary despite changes. Operational closure. The system functions as a closed network of processes that define its existence. Structural coupling. While maintaining its autonomy, it interacts with the environment and adapts. Some applications within autopoiesis: biology, which explains how living cells and organisms maintain life. Cognitive science, which suggests that cognition arises from self-organizing processes. Sociology, used by theorists like Nicholas Luhmann to describe how social systems, for example governments, organizations, sustain themselves. And lastly, artificial life and robotics. It inspires self-sustaining, adaptive AI and robotics. So how does it link to the system of white supremacy in the U.S. government? Applying autopoiesis to white supremacy in the U.S. government means analyzing how the system self-produces, maintains, and regenerates racial hierarchy while adapting to external pressures. In this view, white supremacy is not just an ideology, or policy, but a self-sustaining system embedded within the structures of government, law, and society. Autopoietic aspects of white supremacy in the U.S. government. The self-production of systemic racism. The U.S. government has historically created and reinforced racial hierarchies through laws, policies, and institutions. For example, slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, and redlining. Even when explicit racist policies are dismantled, new forms of racial control, an example, mass incarceration, voter suppression, emerge to sustain the system. Self-maintenance through institutional structures. Systems like the criminal justice system, electoral laws, economic policies, and education maintain racial disparities. These structures reproduce inequality without needing individuals to be explicitly racist. The system itself continues operating in a way that benefits white supremacy. Operational closure, resistance to change. The system defends itself against transformation by absorbing reformist efforts without fundamentally changing, i.e., Civil Rights Act led to new forms of racial control, like mass incarceration. Policies like affirmative action rollbacks and gerrymandering show how the system adapts to maintain racial power structures. Structural coupling, adapting to new environments. The system evolves in response to social movements and external pressures. For example, after the Civil Rights Movement, colorblind policies emerged, replacing explicit racial discrimination with race-neutral language that still upholds inequality. For example, tough on crime policies disproportionately targeted Black communities. The shift from overt white supremacy, Jim Crow, to covert white supremacy, mass incarceration, voter ID laws, economic exclusion, shows how the system regenerates itself. Some examples of autopoiesis in white supremacy in U.S. governance would be mass incarceration. The end of segregation didn't dismantle racial control. Instead, the criminal justice system took over through disproportionate policing and sentencing of Black Americans. Through voting rights and restrictions. When laws protecting Black voters are passed, new restrictions like voter ID laws or felony disenfranchisement emerge to maintain racial political power. Economic disparities. Redlining officially ended, but wealth gaps persist due to generational disadvantages reinforced by housing policies, job discrimination, and unequal access to credit. In conclusion, through an autopoietic lens, white supremacy in the U.S. government is not just a relic of the past, but an evolving, self-sustaining system. It regenerates itself through laws, institutions, and social norms, adapting to new political and cultural conditions while maintaining racial hierarchies.